Hey everybody, it's Michael. I'm back again with another walkthrough video, and today I want to show you, and I hope I pronounce this correctly, ZhanGuo. ZhanGuo debuted at Essen 2014. It's by What's Your Game. The version I have here is the English version, although the game itself is language independent, and I think other versions, for example the German one by Asmodee, are appearing these days. The game is designed by Canetta and Stefania Niccolini. It's for 2 to 4 players, ages 12 and up, and it plays in about 60 to 120 minutes. As you might expect from looking at the cover, it's set in China, more specifically around 200 BC, when the king back then tried to unify the different warring states, and that's also what ZhanGuo means in English, warring states, into something bigger that should then be known as the Chinese Empire. And this is also what the game is about. The players are emissaries working for the king, who now calls himself emperor, and they have to go into these different provinces and help speed up the unification process by installing governors, battling the local unrest, but also help building the big wall because there is an imminent threat from a barbarian invasion in the north. Mechanically, the game uses a card mechanism. You get a certain amount of cards each turn, and you can use them for different purposes in a way like in Deus or Bruges and other games that have multi-purpose cards. So after this short introduction, let's dive right in and I'll show you a full 3-player game of ZhanGuo. Enjoy!
Okay, I've set up a 3-player game, and as always, let's have a brief look at the components first. Starting with the board in the middle. Here we see the 5 provinces. Each province has 4 spaces where we can put palaces, but in a 3-player game actually only 3 of these spots will be used. Then there are also 3 spots for governors. Then we have 3 sites where parts of the Great Wall can be built, and each site has 2 different areas where we can build. So for example for blue it's this one, and each area received one of those bonus tiles randomly. And then over to the right we have the Emperor's demands, and each of them also received a random tile, and each player also has 1 disc for every slot. Then around the board we have a score track where everybody starts at the 0. Then we have the cards, the main action mechanism in the game, and these come in 3 categories: writing, currency, and laws. And then finally over here we have an overview of the 6 main actions you can do in court, with some further explanations down here. This is a discard pile for the cards that are being played. And finally down here we have the rewards section. Over here we have a supply of workers, unification discs for the 3 categories, 100 point or 200 point markers if the score track shouldn't be enough. And then finally each player has a player board with a special ability. Basically you can play this game 2 ways. On the flip side, the player boards all look the same, but on this side everybody has a special ability, and also the regions are a bit different. Each player also has a supply of palaces, walls, governors in their color, and then unrest tokens and the 3 kinds of officials. And everybody starts with 3 officials in their first province. So for example blue starts with 3 grey ones. But as you can see, red and yellow start with different ones actually. And what you're trying to do in the game is get the most points, which means that you have done the most for the unification of the warring states. At the end of the game you'll get points for governors and provinces, how good you were in unifying the 3 different aspects, for the walls, and finally for the Emperor's demands or requests. And then we can already start the game. The game goes over 5 rounds, and each round consists of 3 phases, and the first phase is draw cards. Each player will draw 2 cards from each of the 3 decks, so everybody has a hand of 6 cards. So for the blue player, let's draw 2 writing, 2 currency, and 2 law cards, and everybody does the same. And then we're already in the second phase, which is playing cards. So starting with the start player, which is blue, everybody plays 1 card until all 6 cards have been played. Now, whenever you play a card, you can use it for one of 2 things. You can either put it into one of the 5 provinces down here on your player board, which means that you're working towards unification in the aspect that the card is off. So for example, if I put a law card down here, then I'm trying to unify law in province number 1. And also these cards will give you bonuses for later on when you use the other thing, that is perform a court action. So either put a card into one of the provinces, work towards unification and set up a special ability for later on, or you go directly to the court to actually perform one of the 6 possible actions, and actually you can perform any of the 6 actions you want with any card. So the type of card is not relevant for the action you want to perform. So now let's actually take a look at the choices that blue currently has. Okay, so these are the 6 cards that blue got. And a card has a depiction of a person, which is not relevant for game effects. Then, of course, it belongs to one of the 3 categories. It has a number, which is only relevant when you go to court. And the number actually decides, or rather the interaction of the numbers between those that have already been played, decides on whether you'll be able to trigger bonus or not, but let's talk about that later. And the special abilities basically work all the same way. On the left side you have the depiction of an action, more specifically one of the 6 court actions. So for example, this action is triggered when I perform the collect officials action in the court later on, and then on the right side you get a bonus. So this card means if I install her in one of my provinces and then later on go to court to perform the collect officials action, then as a bonus I can collect 2 victory points. Now the thing that blue has to decide is whether he wants to use the card at court or send one to the provinces, and it probably makes more sense to send cards to the provinces first, because then you're building up your portfolio of bonuses basically. And also the rules suggest that, especially for first game, but also later on, it's a good strategy to try and put down 3 to 4 cards into provinces in the first round. If you look over here, we have 2 cards that give us a bonus when we hire workers, and 2 cards that give us a bonus when we build palaces. So it might be a good idea to get both of the same category in the provinces, so if we do the action we get more than 1 bonus effect. Also, our special abilities say that we get bonuses for building walls and hiring officials, and unfortunately we don't have any bonus for building walls up here. We have 1 for getting officials. Looking over at the rewards, we see that this section rewards you if you have walls in both slots of the purple areas and then also in yellow. And up here we see purple and blue, so purple appears in both of them. So if we want to keep ourselves open, which kind of wall bonus we want, maybe we should focus on purple first and see where it leads. And then moving over to purple, there are 2 different endgame bonuses available. This one will reward us if we have an orange card in as many of our provinces as possible, preferably 5. This one, however, will reward us if we have different sets. So basically for every set of a brown, orange and ivory card in our provinces at the end of the game. So this is something we could decide on right now, whether we want to pursue this bonus or this one. And let's just say that we're interested in this one. So we're trying to build walls, preferably in here. Building walls will hopefully give us these bonuses, and hopefully later on we draw more cards that actually reward us for building walls. This suggests that we should put orange cards in our provinces, and right now we have this one and this one. So let's just decide that we want to put this card into province number 2. So what we do is we take the card, slide it beneath our player board so that only the bonus part is visible, and then since we send this guy into province number 2 to work on currency, we get 1 orange currency unification marker. And now whenever we hire workers, we will be allowed to decrease the unrest. Right now there is none in this region. So we're actually now interested in doing actions that will increase the unrest in region number 2, because we will be able to lower it afterwards again. And that's already our first action. Red puts this character into region number 3. So he collects 1 brown unification marker, and whenever he builds a wall, he will get 1 free red official in region 3. That's what the arrow means, so that basically this bonus has to be applied to the region that the card is in. Yellow puts a character into region 1, so he collects an ivory unification marker. So right now everybody is going for a different kind of unification, for now at least, so this will be interesting because there is a competition for whoever's done the most in each of the categories. And now whenever yellow uses an action to install a governor, he will get 1 free unification marker. Blue decides to put a second character into the second region. Whenever you play the second character into a region, he provides you 2 unification, because he's basically working off what the other guy already did. So this is brown, so we actually get 2 brown unification markers. However, having another guy in there basically telling the populace what to do and what not and introducing new laws will increase unrest by 1. So since there is no unrest in here yet, we take 1 of the unrest cubes and put it on the first space. But again, this is not too bad, because we will be able to decrease the unrest again later. Red plays this card into region 3, so he collects 2 orange markers. Also 1 unrest is created. Yellow puts a brown card over here, so that gives him 1 brown token, but no unrest is created since it's only the first card in that province. For his next turn, blue would actually like to go to court and do an action there. So he has to pick one of the cards. It doesn't matter, he can perform any action with any card. And so he actually decides to take this card because he's not too interested in setting up bonuses for placing governors right now. And he places the card into the court. Now he wants to perform the hire workers action. And as you can see here, hiring workers, no matter how many, places unrest in the region where you hire workers. He wants to hire workers in region 1, so we have to put unrest into region 1. And then you get one worker for each official in that region. However, the officials, which are now in the government area, have to be down here in the worker recruitment area. And normally, to move officials from one area to another, you would actually have to perform the move officials action. But if you can see on the downwards arrow, there's a little green tick, which means whenever you want, you can move officials from up here down there. So that's what we do. We move 2 officials down here. And then because there are 2 officials in the worker recruitment area, we get 2 workers from the supply. Now, for triggering bonuses, as you can see, the trigger bonus is placed above the actual action symbol. That means that the number on our card has to be higher than the card that was below it. Now, since there's X down here, we can treat X as anything we want. So basically we can say X is 1, 31 is higher than 1. So, because the card was higher, we are allowed to trigger all our worker recruitment bonus actions. And if you take a look over here, we have 2 of those actions. So first, we can reduce the unrest in that region by 1, so this one is removed. And second, we can move 2 of our officials for free. Since we're done recruiting workers in this area, we move both officials over here, so they're now ready to recruit workers over here. Red places a card into province number 2, so he also gets 1 ivory token. Yellow puts this card in region 3. And also gets an ivory token. Blue decides to hire workers again. The thing is, he would like to trigger his bonuses again, so he would have to play a card that is higher than a 31. He has 106, a 70, and a 7, so the 7 won't do. And so he decides to play the 70. He decides to hire workers in region 2. 2 government officials are there, so he gets 2 workers. Unrest would be increased by 1, but if he applies the bonus, it is removed immediately again. And after that, he can perform 2 official movements. And once again, he decides to move both over here. Red also decides to hire workers. He doesn't have any bonuses, so it doesn't matter whether he plays a card that is higher than 70. But nevertheless, he plays 114. So he moves 2 officials down here. He gets 2 workers. And he has to increase the unrest by 1. Yellow puts a card in region 3, so he gets 2 brown tokens and an unrest of 1. Blue only has 106 and a 7 remaining, so if he wanted to hire workers again, then he wouldn't be able to get the bonus. So he decides to use this card in here. It's the 3rd card in that province, and you can't place more than 3, so he gets 3 ivory markers, but also an unrest of 2. Red decides to put another card into region 2, so he gets 2 orange markers and another unrest. Yellow decides to hire workers, so he first plays a card. Again, it doesn't matter because he doesn't have any bonuses. He moves 2 officials down here, gets 2 workers and 1 unrest. Blue places his last card in region number 3, and so he gets yet another brown marker. Red decides to use the hire official action. For the bonus to work here, the card that you play has to have a lower number than the one already there. That is the case because he plays a 2. So he can hire any one official in any region. He decides to hire a white official in region 1. And then his bonus triggers, so he can move up to 2 officials. And of course he moves these 2 over here. Now, why do you want different colors officials? Because when installing a governor, you need to remove 1 of each color. So once he has a grey one here, he can actually install a governor in region 1. And yellow decides to do something similar. He plays a card to recruit 1 official. He also decides to put 1 white official into region 1. He doesn't have any bonuses that would trigger on his cards, and the card was too high anyway. But down here as a special ability, we see that he now gets to move 2 officials, and as you might expect, he moves those 2 over here. So now that everybody has played their 6 cards, we enter phase 3. Unification rewards. And for that we look at each of the 3 aspects, top to bottom, and see who has contributed the most to each one. So first of all is ivory, so the writing. Blue has 3, red has 1, and yellow has 2. So blue, if he wants, can now collect a reward, and since we're in round number 1, the reward for ivory would be that he gets any one official in region 1. The thing is, he only has a grey one there, so even if he takes another one, he still needs yet another one to have 3 for a governor. And the thing is, if he passes on taking a reward right now, then if he's in the lead in next round, he'll get 2 red ones in region 2, and that sounds a little bit more attractive. The question is whether he will be in the lead in the next round, but since he would keep his markers if he doesn't get the reward and cash them in if he takes a reward, chances are that with a head start of 3 he'll actually be in the lead next round. However, if he doesn't take the reward, then whoever has the second most is eligible to take it. And for yellow it would be very interesting to take a grey one in region 1, because then he has everything he needs for a governor. But nevertheless, blue decides not to take the reward, keep his 3 ivory markers, so the choice passes over to yellow and he decides to take it. So first of all, he has to cash in his ivory markers. Then he gets 1 official of his choosing in region 1. As discussed, he takes a grey one. And then to indicate that he has already taken this reward, we move his disc over here. Then it's currency orange. Red is in the lead with 4. He would get 2 red ones in region 1, but again he decides not to take it. Next up is blue. He only has 1 token. He decides to spend it. So blue gets 2 red ones in region 1. And then finally we look at brown, and here blue has 3, red has 1, and yellow also has 3, so we have a tie. And for the tiebreaker, we first look down the column of players who haven't claimed the reward yet, top to bottom. So the first in tiebreaker order would be red, but he is not involved in a tie for brown. And then we look top to bottom in this row, so yellow wins the tie against blue, and he could have 2 grey ones in region 1. And he actually decides to do that, so these 3 are cashed in. And so his marker is moved down here. And he gets those. So yellow has no markers remaining, but red and blue do. And then we use the tiebreaker order to determine a new first player. Red will be the first player of the next round. And to start the round off, everybody draws 6 cards again, 2 from each stack. Red starts off round number 2 by playing a 90 card, that doesn't matter. He does want to hire workers, but he doesn't have any bonuses. He wants to hire them in region 2, he has 2 officials, so he gets 2 workers, and unrest increases by 1. Now, since unrest is already at the last level here, that means he can't build palaces in region 2, but he also can't use his bonus abilities, so he'll have to do something about that. Yellow plays this card into province 3, so it gets 3 ivory markers, but also the unrest is at the maximum here. Blue plays this card into the first region, so it gets another brown disc. Red uses this card to perform the move official action. This action never has a bonus, so the number doesn't matter, but of course it can be useful to set you up for future actions. And for his 3 movement, he first moves these 2 over here, and then he moves one of them up here. Now, one of his special abilities says whenever he moves officials, then he can choose a region, decrease unrest by 1, and then hire a worker in that region. So he decides to use region 2, so the special bonuses are available again, and he gets a 3rd worker there. Yellow puts another person into region 1. He gets 2 orange tokens, and the unrest increases by 1. Blue wants to hire workers. He would like to use his bonuses, so he has to play a card that is higher than a 74, so he plays a 75. He wants to hire workers in region 3, so he gets 2. Unrest increases by 1. Now for the special abilities. First he gets 2 points, so that's actually the first 2 points on the board. Then he can decrease unrest in this region by 1. He can move officials, and as always he decides to move both over here. Red puts a card in region number 1. And so he gets yet another orange token. Yellow wants to install a governor. For that, the card that he plays has to be lower if he wants to use bonuses. And a 58 is lower than a 75. Now, whenever you install a governor, you need 1 of each of the 3 different officials in a region. Then you can install a governor in that region, and then you can remove all unrest in that region. He picks region 1, so these 3 are gone, and so is the unrest. And then he can put a governor into region number 1. Now there are 3 bonus spaces, and now he can choose one of them. And he decides to take a free official, takes a grey one, and puts it into region number 3. Then lots of bonuses apply. First, he can decrease unrest anywhere he likes. Then he gets 1 unification marker of his choice. Since right now he has 3 ivory, and so does blue, he decides to take another one. Then, since we decreased the unrest here, we actually can use our bonuses now, so he gets a free worker in region number 3. And finally, a red official is also put into region number 3. And finally, the special ability on his board says that after placing a governor, he can move a governor to an adjacent region. So he decides to actually move this one over here, and here it is put into the open area, so it doesn't use one of the bonus spaces. The reason he did this is he's interested in this task, and this requires governors in 2, 3, and 4. He's working on getting a governor in 3 now, but actually to fulfill this task, he doesn't need a governor in region 1. Blue decides to put a card into region number 4. He gets the last ivory marker. Red hires an official. 35 is less than 58, so he gets his bonuses. He decides to put a grey one in here. So first he gets to move 1 worker. He moves it over here. And then he can move up to 2 officials. And he decides to move this one over here and leave it at that. Yellow places a card here. So he gets a brown token. Blue wants to build a wall. Now, first of all, he has to select one of the sides. So yellow, blue, or purple. And then within those sides, one of the 2 actual pieces of wall. This one will give him 1, 2, or 3 points. We get to that for each region that has 1 brown card. And currently, 3 of his 5 regions already have a brown card, so the other 2 should be doable. So this is the piece of wall he picks. At this location on the side, you can choose one of the 3 spots. And depending on how many rods you see here, you have to give up 1, 2, or 3 workers, but you get the better bonus. So if you were to build here, then each region with a brown card would give him 1 point at the end of the game for a total of 5. However, if he builds here, he can get up to 15 points, and right now he would have 9 because 3 times 3. So he wants to build here. He puts one of his wall markers on here, and that costs him 3 workers from 3 different regions. And wouldn't you know it, he can do that. So he removes 3 workers from 3 different regions. He has put the wall here. He now has an endgame scoring opportunity. And now we can take a look at his bonuses. He doesn't have any on his cards actually, but down here we can see that he gets 1 unification marker of his choice. Now he's tied in ivory, but all the ivory markers are gone. He's leading in brown right now, so he decides to take an orange one. Red also decides to build a wall with a higher card. He can also afford to build in one of the good locations because he has 3 workers in 3 different regions. And because he has 3 orange cards in different regions, he decides to go over here to the purple side, so he can now score that endgame bonus. So 3 workers are removed. And then special abilities. He can decrease unrest by 1 anywhere, and decides to do it here in region 1. Then he gets a red official in region 3. And finally he can decrease unrest somewhere by 1 to hire a worker there, and he decides to do that in region 3. Yellow plays a card to hire an official. He wants a white one in region number 2. He doesn't have any bonuses from cards, but down here we see that he can move up to 2 officials. And he decides to move 1 grey one over here. Blue hires workers. He will get the bonuses. He chooses region number 4, gets 2, gets an unrest. Then he gets 2 points. Can perform 2 official movements. Once again he moves both of them over here. Gets to decrease unrest in this region, and that's it. And one other benefit of blue playing such a high card is that he has a very low card and he wants to hire an official with his next action. And the thing is, he would collect quite some bonuses, but of course for an official the card needs to be lower. And now, since the cards are generally higher again, he hopes that he can still use his 19 later on. The thing is, he can see that the red player also has an ivory card, and ivory cards are in the range of 1 to 40. So if the red player uses his card for a court action now, and he has a lower number than 19, which could be, then of course this was for nothing, but he can just hope. Red indeed plays the card, but it's a 29, so blue is lucky. Red wants to hire an official, puts a white one in here. Then first he can move a worker, but he decides not to do that. And then he can move up to 2 officials, but he also doesn't want to do that. Yellow wants to hire workers, he'll get his bonuses. Picks region number 2, so he gets 2 workers. And then because of this ability over here, he also gets a free worker in region number 4. And of course we have to increase the unrest by 1. And finally blue gets to hire his official. The card is lower, so he'll get the bonus. He wants a white one in here. Then he gets 2 points. 1 unification token. So he takes orange one, and yet another unification token. He takes a brown one. Then it's the end of the round, so we can do the unification rewards. First, ivory. Blue has 4 and yellow has 4. But blue is high up on the tiebreaker, so he gets the first choice of taking 2 red officials in region number 2. And he decides to do that. So he cashes in all 4 of his tokens, moves over here, and gets 2 officials in here. Then next up is orange. Red is the leader with 5, and he can get 2 gray ones in region 2, which he also wants. And then finally brown. Here blue is in the lead. He could get 2 workers in region number 2. He just got 2 officials here, so recruiting some other workers there wouldn't be that big of a problem. And if he decides not to use it, then he's at a pretty good running of getting a governor next turn. The problem is that yellow and red only have 1 brown token. And if he decides to pass, then red would get the chance. So blue decides to cash in those markers after all. So he moves down here and gets 2 workers in region 2. So for the new turn order, red will start and we can move into round number 3, where first everybody will draw their 6 cards again. And I just realized that this order is wrong. I moved the yellow marker instead of the red one, so it should actually look like this, and yellow would start. Yellow plays this card into region number 4. It'll give him another 2 ivory discs, as well as 1 unrest. Red plays a card in region 1, which gives him 2 brown discs, as well as 1 unrest. Blue uses this card at the court to build a palace. It's higher, so he'll get the bonus. For building a palace, you need to remove 2 workers from the region where the palace should be built, and 1 worker from a different region. He wants to build a palace in region 2, so he has to remove 2 workers here, and then he removes 1 in region 1. Then he can build a palace in region 2, into one of the 3 spots, because it's a 3-player game, only 3 are available. Now the reward is that you get 1 of the big unification markers, and you can choose the color, and those are worth 3 points. And decides to take the orange one to make sure he actually stays in the lead here. Then you get 1 point for each card on your player board, so that's 6, so he's now at 12. And finally he can trigger his bonuses. In this case he can hire a new worker in region 3. Yellow uses this card to also build a palace. He wants to build a palace in region 1, so he moves 2 workers from here, 1 from here. Then he decides to take the brown unification marker, so he's now at 4. And finally he scores 8 points. Then his bonuses trigger, so he gets a worker in region 2 and a white official in region 3. Red decides to build another wall up here. Again he goes for a wall of size 3, so he has to remove all 3 workers. Now at the end of the game he'll get 3 points for each of his regions, that is without unrest. As for the bonuses, he can remove 1 unrest, and then he can remove unrest anywhere and get a worker there, so he does that over here. And finally he gets a red official in region 3. And then at the end of his action he has a wall at the purple and the blue side, so he has now fulfilled this Emperor's task, so he can put a disc into the leftmost space. That will be 3 points at the end of the game. However, depending on whether he'll be able to fulfill this task or this task, all the points that are gained together from these 3 tasks will be either multiplied by 2 or by 3. So he has now an interest in building palaces in region 2 and 3 and hiring governors in 1, 2, 4 and 5. Blue puts a card over here in region 5, and so he gets 1 brown token. Yellow puts a card in region 1, so that's another 3 brown tokens, as well as 2 unrest. Red puts an orange card into region number 4, so he gets 1. Blue places a brown card in region 4. That would give him 2 brown tokens. There is only 1 left. Unrest increases by 1, but he now has 1 brown card in each region, So this end of game goal is taken care of. Yellow decides to build a wall. He'll get his bonuses. He decides to take this spot over here, so he has to pay 3 workers. And then he gets 1 point for each brown card on his player board, so that's 4. Red plays an orange card into region number 5, so he gets 1 token, and he has taken care of this endgame goal. Blue would like to build a palace, but he would very much like to get this bonus. And the thing is, there's 101 in the middle, and he only has cards lower than that. So the idea would be now to play one, preferably a low one, and then hoping that the other ones will be higher, and he can build a palace with a bonus with one of his next actions. At some point, he wants to start hiring or installing governors, and he has the prerequisites for that in region 1. However, since governors reduce the overall unrest, it would be great if there was more unrest, because then reducing it would be worth it. And so he decides to place this card in region number 1. So he gets 2 more orange discs, and the unrest increases by 1. Yellow plays a card in here. There's only 1 orange disc left to take, and unrest increases by 1. Red puts a card in region 4, so he collects the last 2 ivory tokens, and unrest is back to 1. Blue plays this card to install a governor. He doesn't have any bonuses for that. He decides to install him in region 1, so we need to remove these 3 officials. The unrest is gone, and we can decide which bonus we want. And he decides to hire another official, a white one that he puts in region 2. Yellow also decides to install a governor. He will get his bonuses. He removes 3 officials from region 3, and he decides to take the 4 points. And first of all, he's allowed to move any one governor to one adjacent region. He decides to move the one he just placed over to here. And then he gets to reduce unrest by 1. He gets any one unification token, but they're all out. He gets to hire a worker in region number 3. Gets a red official in region 3, and that's it. Red uses this card to move officials, so he gets 3 movements, 1, 2, and 3. And then he can use a special ability, so this one is free of unrest again, and gets a worker. And finally Blue can use this card to build a palace and get the bonus. He wants to build the palace in region 3, so he has to remove 2 workers, plus another one. Puts the palace in region 3. Then he can grab one of the big unification markers. The only one left is the ivory one. He gets a point for each card in his tableau. So that's 9. So he's now at 21. Then this bonus triggers, so he gets a worker in region number 3. And finally, he has palaces in region 2 and 3. So he has completed this task. For the unification rewards, starting with ivory, Yellow has 6, so he's in the lead. He could cash them in for 2 grey workers in region 3, but he doesn't want to do that. So Blue has 3 and Red has 3, but Red is higher in tiebreaker order. The thing is, Red doesn't want the reward either, because he has only 1 grey official left, so he passes. So Blue decides to return this one. It goes back to the board. He moves his marker over here and gets 2 grey officials in region 3. Then next is Orange. Blue is in the lead here with 7, but he doesn't want to work in region 3, he's rather hoping for that governor next round. So the choice passes to Yellow, and he decides to take the reward. And then finally it's Brown. Here Yellow is in the lead, but he doesn't want a governor in region 1 or 2, so he passes. The choice goes over to Red, and he decides to use it. And he decides to place the governor in region 2. And since he gets the bonus, even if you place the governor through the reward action, he decides to take a white official and put it into region 2. So you'll be able to put yet another governor in there soon. And then we can determine new starting player and tiebreaker order. So Blue will be the starting player as we move into turn number 4. And first of all, everybody draws cards again. Blue starts off by putting this brown card into region 1. So he gets 3 brown tokens, and unrest increases by 2. Yellow plays an orange card into region 2. So he gets the last 3 tokens, and unrest is at the maximum. So right now he can't use these bonuses. Red places a brown card into region 1. There are no brown markers left, so he gets 3 points. And unrest is at 2. Blue puts an orange card over here in region 5. There are no orange tokens left, so he gets 2 points. And unrest increases by 1. Yellow uses this card to hire an official. It's lower, so he'll get the bonus. He hires a white one over here. Then this bonus triggers, so he gets a grey one in here. And finally he can move 2 officials. And he decides to move a red one up here and this red one over here. Red plays this card to install a governor. He chooses region 1, so these are gone. He's put in here. Red scores 4 points. The unrest is gone. Then he gets a grey cube in here. He can reduce unrest, but there is none. And then he can take any 1 unification markers. There are none left, so he gets another point. Blue uses this card to build a wall. He decides to put it here on the 2 spot. So it costs him 2 workers from different regions. And he decides to move this one and this one. And then his bonuses trigger. First he gets 1 point for each brown card. That's 6. Plus another point for every orange card. That's 3 for a total of 9. Then he can move 2 officials. He decides to basically swap these 2. And finally he gets any 1 unification marker. There are none, so he gets another point. And then he has a wall at the purple and the blue side, so he can also claim this task. Yellow uses this card to install a governor. He chooses region 2. He decides to get 4 points. Then he can reduce unrest by 1. He can get a unification token, which equals another point. He can reduce unrest by 1 again. He gets a worker and a red cube in region 3. And then finally he can move a governor again. And he decides to move this one over here. So now he has governors in region 2, 3 and 4. So this task is complete. Red puts a brown card in here. That would be 3 tokens. There are none left, so that's 3 points and 2 unrest. Blue puts this card over here, so that's 2 points for the unification markers and 1 unrest. Yellow puts a brown card here in region number 4. That's 3 points for the tokens and 2 unrest. Red uses this card, which is barely lower, to install a governor. He chooses region 4, decides to take an official and put him in region 5. Then we can reduce the unrest. Then we get a grey one here in region 2. We can decrease another unrest, but there is none. And then we get a point for lack of a unification token. Blue uses this card to install a governor. He chooses region 2. There is only 1 bonus spot remaining, so he chooses this one. He gets to move around up to 4 officials. And he decides to move this red one over to region 5 and this red one over to region 3. Of course it would have been the same if he moved 1 from 1 to 5. And then he gets 3 points. Yellow uses this card to hire workers. First he moves those 2 down here for free. He gets 2 workers. Unrest increases by 1. Then in here unrest is decreased by 1. And in here he gets another 2 workers. Red puts this card up here, gets 3 points, and unrest is at 2. Blue uses this card to hire workers. He chooses region 5. He gets 2 4 points. He gets another worker in here. And he gets to move 2 officials. So he decides to move this one up here and this one over here. Yellow uses this card to hire an official, so the bonus won't trigger. He decides to hire a red one in region 1 and then he gets 2 official movements, so he moves these 2 up here. Red uses this card to hire an official. He wants a red one in region 5. Then he can move 1 worker. He decides to move this one over here. And then he can move an official up to 2 spaces and decides to move this grey one 2 spaces over here. Then for the rewards, in ivory, yellow is the leader with 6, but he doesn't want 2 workers in region 4, so he passes. Next up is red. He decides to cash those in. and gets 2 workers in region 4. Orange, here blue is in the lead. The reward is 1 governor in region 3 or 4. He decides to take it, so this one is returned to the board. These ones are just returned to the normal supply. And he decides to take the 4 points. And then we have brown. Here yellow is in the lead. The reward is 1 wall. He decides to take it. And he puts his wall over here, so at the end of the game he'll get 4 points for each region that has a red official. Not looking too bad. Okay, and then we can move into round number 5, where red will be the starting player once again. So everybody draws cards one final time. Red plays a card into region 2. Then he gets 3 ivory tokens, and unrest increases by 2. Blue uses this card to hire an official. He wants to hire a white one in region 5. Then for the bonuses, he gets 2 points. 1, 2 unification markers of his choice. And he decides to select an orange and a brown one. Yellow plays this card into region 5. So he gets 1 orange unification token. The red player plays this card to hire an official. He selects region 3 and a white official. So first of all, he gets to move a worker to an adjacent region. He decides to move a worker from region 4 to 3. And then he can also move 2 officials. And he decides to move this one over here and one of these over here. Now blue is ready to install a governor in region 5, and so is red. And the thing is, the first spot is still open. So it would be good if blue did it now. However, he would need to play a card lower than a 4 to get his bonuses. And his lowest card is actually a 14. So the question is whether to delay in getting the governor or simply not getting the 3 points, because that is the only governor bonus he has. And he decides that he doesn't really need those 3 points. So he decides to play a 43 and install a governor in region 5. So these are all gone. Then he simply decides to take the 4 points. Then all the unrest is gone. And then he can claim the task of having governors in regions 1, 2, 4 and 5. Yellow uses this card to install a governor. Chooses region 1, places him here. So let's just keep in mind that he gets 4 movements. First we remove the unrest. Now for the 4 movements. 1, 2, 3, and we'll just ignore the 4th one. Then we get to reduce unrest somewhere. We get any 1 unification token. We decide to take an orange one. We get to reduce unrest yet again. We get a worker and a red official. Red uses this card to build a palace. He chooses region 3, so 2 workers plus an additional 1 are discarded. Then he gets 1 point for each card in his tableau, so that's 13, so he's now 28. And then he gets to take any 1 unification marker, and he decides to take the white one. And then finally he gets another 3 points. Blue places this card in region 5. There are no ivory markers left, so he simply gets 3 points, and unrest is back at 2. Yellow plays this card into region 5, so he gets 2 brown tokens and 1 unrest. Red plays this card to install a governor, chooses region 2, so all of this is gone, and so is the unrest. There are no bonus spots left. Now for the bonuses here. He gets a worker and a grey cube in region 2. He may decrease unrest by 1. And finally he gets any 1 unification token, and he decides to take an orange one. Blue decides to use this card to build a palace. He chooses region 5, so he has to give up 2 workers here, 1 worker somewhere else. Palace in region 5. He has 13 cards. Decides to take the orange marker. And then finally, as a bonus, 1 worker gets put into region 3. Yellow also decides to build a palace. He won't get any bonuses. He chooses region 4. So he removes 2 worker and another one from over here. Puts his palace there. He has 14 cards, so he moves from 24 to 38. And he can grab the brown marker. And then, since he has a palace in regions 1 and 4, this task is completed. Red is lucky because his card is by 1 point lower than the one already there. He wants to install a governor. He will get the bonuses, which is kind of crucial to his plan. He has a choice between region 3 and 5, but he decides for region 5. There is no unrest to remove. The bonus, it doesn't really matter, but he decides to take an official. Let's just say he puts a white one in here. For the bonuses, we get another worker down here, then a grey official. Unrest is removed by 1, so he's now completely free of unrest. And finally, he gets a unification token, so he gets the last brown one. And then he's also governors in regions 1, 2, 4 and 5, so this task is complete. Blue uses this card to build a wall. Since he has only 2 workers remaining and would like to build another wall with his next action, he decides to remove only 1 worker. He decides to use this one over here. 1 point for each brown card, 1 point for each orange card, and finally 1 point for each ivory card, for a total of 13 points. And he's not interested in moving around any officials. Yellow also wants to build a wall. He decides to move over here, so that's 2 workers from different regions. He gets 1 point for each brown card, 6. And finally, he now has walls in both pink sides and the yellow one, so this task is completed. For his very last action in the entire game, Red plays this card to build a palace. He won't get the 3 bonus points. Once built in region 2, so these are gone and this one is gone. The palace is put into region 2. He gets 13 points, so he's now at 44. Unfortunately, there's no marker to grab, but he has now palaces in regions 2 and 3. Blue decides to build one final wall. He's lucky, he'll get all his bonuses again. He only has 1 worker remaining, that means he has to go in a 1 spot again. So his options are getting 1 point for each region without unrest, which would be 1 point. Getting 2 points for each region with a white official, so 0. And getting 1 point for each region that has an orange card, which is actually what he does. So that'll be at least 3 points at the end of the game. All his 3 bonuses trigger again. We ignore this one. So basically he's getting 1 point for each card, so that's once more 13 points. Plus, he also fulfilled this task now. For Yellow's last action, he has multiple options. One interesting thing would be to hire a red official here, because then he has 1 in every region, so it actually scored 20 points of that. On the other hand, now it's 16, so that's only a 4-point difference. Building another wall is not that interesting, so what he actually decides to do is use the card to build a palace. He can build a palace in region 3. There's still 1 spot left, because then he simply gets another 14 points. Then we are at the rewards one last time. First ivory. Red has 6 and yellow has 6, but red wins the tiebreaker and he gets to place a governor, which of course he does, so he cashes everything in. But now the question is where to put the governor. He's already in the lead in region 2, so putting 1 here would simply give him another 3 points, because if you have the majority then you get 9 points plus 3 for each governor. Putting it in regions 1, 4 or 5 would actually give him the lead there, and putting in region 3 would make him tie with yellow. But this option is actually better, first because he gets the extra 4 points, and second because now he has also fulfilled this task. And of course we need to move the disc over here. Then we have orange. Yellow has 5. The reward is to build a free wall, which yellow decides to do, so he cashes all those tokens in and decides to put a wall up here. And since he has now a wall at both the blue and the pink side, he also fulfills this task for 1 point. And finally, brown. Blue has 6, so he's in the lead. He cashes all of them in to build a palace, but he won't get any unification markers, but there are none left anyway. Now, it would be interesting if he could fulfill another task, but this one requires palaces in 1 and 4, and he doesn't have 1 in either region, so it pretty much doesn't matter where he puts the palaces, just say he puts it here, and so he gets another 13 points. And since he has now over 100 points, he receives the appropriate token. And then we're at the end of the game, so we can do the final scoring. And before we do that, let's check the scores. Blue is at 107, yellow is at 58, and red is at 48. First, we do the majorities of the governors in each region. In region 1, we don't have a majority, so basically the points are split. So everybody gets a share of 9 points plus 3 points for the governor, for a total of 12. Everybody gets 4 points. In region 2, red has a majority. He has 2 governors, so he gets 15 points. In region 3, yellow and red are tied, so everybody gets their share of 12 points, so that's 6 for both. In region 4, it's a 3-way split again, so everybody gets 4. And in region 5, blue and red get 6 points each. Then next up, we have the majorities of the unification markers, or at least those who remain. Whoever has the most white remaining will get 5 points. That is yellow. Whoever has the most orange remaining gets 6 points. That's blue. And finally, whoever has the most brown remaining gets 7 points. And that's yellow.
Next up are the tasks.
Once again, we have 2 different sections. First, we add together the points that everybody got in each section. So let's, for example, start with red. Red has 3, 6, 10. And then we take a look at how many discs they have in this section. 3. So these 10 points are multiplied with 3 for a total of 30. Down here, he has only 1 disc. So whatever points he has is multiplied by 1. So it's actually 34 points. So red moves from 83 to 117. Then yellow. Down here, yellow gets 12 points. Times 3 is 36. 37. So he moves from 84 to 121. And finally blue, he has 11 points, times 3 is 33, plus 2 is 35, so you end up at 162. And finally, let's take a look at the bonus points for the walls. Starting with this one. Here, blue gets 1 point for each region that has an orange card. So that's 1, 2, 3. Yellow gets 2 for each. 1, 2, 3 regions with an orange card, so 6 points. And finally, red gets 3. And he has an orange card in each region for 15. Next up is this wall. Here we're looking at sets. Blue will get 3 for each set that is comprised of the 3 different colors. Since he has only 3 orange cards, we're looking at a maximum of 3 sets. Can we find 3 brown cards? Yes, we can. Can we find 3 ivory cards? Yes, we can. So that's 3 sets times 3 for a total of 9 points. Yellow gets 4 for each set. Now we have 4 orange cards. We also have 4 ivory cards and 4 brown cards. 4 sets makes 16 points. Then points for each region with a brown card, starting with yellow. He has a brown card in every single region, so 10 points. Then blue, he also has a brown card in every region, so 15 for him. Then over here, red will get 3 points for each region without unrest, so that's 15. Then finally up here, we're looking at regions with red officials. First blue, you'll get 2 points for each such region, so 2 points. And then yellow gets 16. And so our final scores are 147 for red, 169 for yellow, and 191 for blue, making him the overall winner. And that was one full 3-player game of ZhanGuo. Finally, before I wrap this up, let me show you the special ability of the player bot that you didn't get to see in this game. Basically, whenever he hires a worker, he gets to move 1 official, and whenever he installs a governor, he gets to move 1 worker around. But also, whenever he hires a worker in any region, he gets 1 more. And regarding these player bots with the special abilities, the rules suggest that, of course, for the first times you play with the sides that don't have the special ability, then you play with the ones that have a special ability. But once you're really used to the game, then the rules actually suggest that you play with an auction where the B-side player bots are auctioned off. And the idea is basically that everybody starts with 15 points on the VP track, and basically you're bidding with VP points for the board you want. And finally, the rules suggest 3 variants. The first one is that in the first 4 rounds, you actually draw 3 cards of each color and then discard 1. Then the second variant is that the player order is not actually clockwise from the start player, but according to the tiebreaker on the rewards track. And finally, the third variant suggests that whenever you hire workers, you actually increase the unrest by each worker you hired and not by a flat 1. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this overview of ZhanGuo. Apart from the fact that I probably once again spent too much focus on the blue player's strategy and neglected the others a little bit, hopefully you could see that this is not a very difficult game to play when you're looking at the mechanics and the rules. But on the other hand, there's a lot, and I really mean a lot, to think about. Let's start with the mechanics. You have your 6 cards on your turn. You either put a card on your tableau, giving you a bonus in the future, or so you collect unification markers, or you take any card you want and you go to court, and there's 6 different actions, and those are not too complicated as well.
but the decision space that opens up from this simple system is enormous. You have to pay attention to play a fair amount of cards onto your tableau to actually get the bonuses and set yourself up for scoring lots of points when building palaces or for certain wall bonuses that require a certain type of card to be present on your tableau. And also, of course, you want to collect the unification tokens for the rewards at the end of the round. But on the other hand, the more cards you don't play on the board and the more cards you actually use in court, the more things you get done. And this is just one of the many trade-offs in the game. The other thing are the officials. Of course, you need the officials to hire workers, and preferably lots of them, so you can build a lot of stuff. On the other hand, you need to turn them into governors. So preferably you would hire all your workers first and then start turning your officials in. But in the meantime, if you've played cards and if you hired workers, the unrest will have risen and there are only so many options to decrease the unrest again. So at some point you need to hire governors, but then of course the officials are all gone. Then next are the palaces. You want to build them late because then you have more cards in your tableau and they give you more points. But if you build them early, you get the big unification markers, which will help you get rewards, which will help you get stuff earlier on, and so forth. Then there are all the different scoring opportunities you have to keep in mind. You want to fulfill the Emperor's tasks, you want to build palaces because they give you straight up points, you want to build walls because they give you endgame bonus conditions, but then you also want to fulfill these conditions. Then you want to set up governors for the area majority, then you want to get unification tokens for the rewards but also endgame scoring, and finally you want to build a good set of bonus abilities that work well with each other and also help in your primary or secondary strategy. And then in the advanced version you also have your special ability on your player board and you also want to leverage that if possible. So there's a lot of things to keep in mind, especially in the beginning when you want to play your very first card. It could take a while for you to come up with the perfect plan. And of course then there are the other players. There's of course the competition on the board, then there's the jockeying for the majorities in the unification aspects, and then of course there's a card play in court where you have to figure out whether you will be able to get a certain bonus. If you want to play that card late in the turn, will it still be the high card then? And you can see the other player's card backs, so at least you have a rough idea what range of numbers their cards are in, but you don't know for sure. And apart from that, there's the logistical puzzle of moving your officials around on your player board, putting them where they need to be, because then they can hire workers, which you need in the proper places, both for walls, but especially for the palaces. And I guess that's it. So, as always, thanks for watching, have fun playing, and until next time, bye bye.